We're good. We'll call to order the regular Solon Community School District Board of Directors meeting for the month of September. It is the mission of the Solon Community School District to engage each and every student in rigorous and relevant learning experiences, maximize achievements through exceptional teaching. Chris, can you call the roll?
I will. Wolf. Here. Jedlicka.
Here.
Alaska.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Coons is not present, but will join us via Zoom as soon as he can, and we'll note the time when he joins.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Thanks to everyone who's with us in person and online. Chris, I think you said we have people registered for public speaking tonight.
I do. I have 3 parents of students in the district. Lynn Rose will be the first. She emailed me yesterday. And Lynn will have you step up on the X if you don't mind, so everybody can hear. And they all are aware that they have 5 minutes to speak, so I'll set a timer. And I've also relayed to them, or am relaying to them, that the board will listen, but typically in this section, they don't respond. They'll just take in what you have to say.
Chris,
Dan has joined us at
31.
4:31. Thank you. Dan, are you present?
He's- He may be muted.
Just want to make
Yes,
sure.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Yep. thank you.
Hold on, I'm gonna reset this and restart. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. As Chris said, my name is Lynn Rose. I am a parent of children in the Solon Community School District. I'm also an aunt to another child in the community school district. All of those children are between the ages of 5 and 12. None of them can be vaccinated for COVID. In my professional life, I am an assistant county attorney for the county of Johnson County. Among my clients are elected officials like yourselves who have the authority and the ability to enter regulations and make decisions to protect the public interest. It's my job to advise them. Particularly, one of my clients is the Johnson County Board of Health. This means that I have to pay attention to COVID issues, the changing guidance, the ever evolving science, and in particular, the legal framework in which we look at this issue. I'm here today to talk to you about something in that legal framework. On Monday, September 13th, Judge Pratt, out of the Federal District Court for the Southern District of Iowa, entered a temporary restraining order. It went into effect Monday. It prohibits the state of Iowa from enforcing Iowa Code Section 28031, which is the mask ban. That's the mask ban that Governor Reynolds signed into effect on May 20th, 2021. The state is no longer able to enforce that. In the course of making that decision, Judge Pratt made 3 really critical findings. The first he made was that that particular mask ban conflicts directly with the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. These statutes are important. They affect every public school district in the United States. They require that public school district to provide services to all students, even students who fit into the category of disabled as defined under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Judge Pratt found the mask ban to be in conflict with those. That was part of the reason he entered the order he did. Chris, how much time do I have?
You're right at 2:30.
Thank you. The next thing he found is that the plaintiffs in that case were likely to succeed on the merits, i.e. win in terms of suing those school districts. He didn't find that they might. He found that they were likely to win. That's a big deal. It's hard to win a federal case. The third thing he found is that it is in the public interest to protect the health of students in public schools. These findings are important. I believe what this shows is that there is now an effective roadmap for parents of disabled students to sue school districts that do not require universal masking. And I think that since we have a finding from the federal court that those parents are likely to succeed, the legal danger it presents is real. As a parent, I want the resources in the Solon Community School District to go to education of my kids, other kids in my family, everybody. I don't want them used to have to defend federal litigation. I think we're vulnerable to that if we don't act on this at this point. The remedy is simple. It's inexpensive in terms of money. It probably won't make you popular, but you aren't here because you want to be popular. At least I hope you're not. Okay? The solution is a universal mask requirement for students and staff inside public school buildings and facilities until either the legal framework changes again or there's a vaccine available for people in this age category under the age of 12. I'm asking you today, please act in the public interest. Give us a mask mandate. Avoid costly federal litigation. There's a roadmap here for parents to do this. Provide a safe learning environment and do what's required of public officials. Act in the public interest. Thank you.
Hey, Lynn, thank you for taking the time to come and share your concern. Next is Ann Johnson, parent of a student in the district.
Good evening. About an hour ago, parent Stephanie Edmonds sent a petition signed by over 100 parents and community members. This petition went to the 5 members of the board, Superintendent Josh Lyons, and the 4 building principals. Stephanie is unable to be here this evening, so I'm going to read you her email. Stephanie is a Lakeview parent. I'm sending you the attached petition because the mask issue is not on the board agenda for tonight. We wanted to let you know how important the issue is to many community members. The petition is signed by 106 parents or community members of the Solon Community School District in just 24 hours. Due to conflicts of interest, some were unable to sign out of fear of repercussions. We realize there may be just as many or more louder voices with the opposing position, but the point was not a vote, but rather show concern. We believe the decision should be based on CDC and American Academy of Pediatric recommendations, even if it is not popular. Now I'll add my own words. As Stephanie said, the CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics recommend all over 2 wear masks indoor regardless of vaccination status. We're ignoring that recommendation. I understand Tim Brown, board president's position, that he is staying out of day-to-day district operations and does not want to manage the administration. This is not a day-to-day issue. This isn't strep throat. This isn't a childhood disease. We are talking about at least 3 Solon community members that are on the ventilator in the hospital right now, and some Solon community members that have died. If this is not cause for the board to step up, what is? What are you waiting for? We're going to watch the numbers go up until when? Nobody wants to wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask. But if others aren't going to wear a mask, I will still do the right thing. But asking a high schooler to wear a mask when none of his peers are, that's not fair. I've gotten my first notification letter this year that my son's exposed. I feel fortunate that he was able to get vaccinated. But what about the kids under 12 that couldn't get vaccinated, or the parents that chose not to vaccinate their kids? We need to be role models. It's up to this group to be leaders and to set good example. Show concern. I'm tired of hearing about we need to see facial expressions and we need to let kids be kids. This isn't about me. This isn't about them. It's about care for others. Care for those that may not recover if they get this. These are the families, the other community members that are sick right now. Show care for them and their families and try to keep others from getting sick. Wearing a mask right now in Solon is not popular. I have a friend that was recently told to move if she didn't like it. We are not teaching our kids to be caring. Teachers cannot speak up They have been stifled. Social media policy ensures that. They do not feel comfortable expressing their viewpoint on masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. And Jason.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Burns. I'm a parent, a fourth grader at Solon. She's 9 years old. Her name is Alex. And, I just want to take a couple minutes to make a few comments today. Prior to being appointed to the bench back in 2015, I was a prosecuting attorney in Cedar Rapids for a number of years. And part of my job as prosecutor before I became judge was to go before judges and juries and try to convince them of the righteousness of my cause, to try to bring them to my side and get them to agree with me on a particular issue. And so in doing that, there were a few things that I learned. One of the things was that whenever I was in front of a judge or a jury, I tried to read the room and figure out which of those arguments I thought would actually carry some weight. And so there are other people that can speak more eloquently than I could about the desire for a mask mandate. So I'm not here today to ask you for that, although I would definitely support it. One of the other things as a prosecutor I would do is I would, if I thought that the audience that I was speaking to was not particularly sympathetic to the argument that I was making, was I would ask for alternate verdicts. So I would ask for, well, if you're not willing to do this, then please consider this. And so if reading the room, if you're not inclined to impose a mask mandate, I would ask that you keep a couple of things in mind. One, I am asking that you follow the law and the guidance that is currently issued. One of the things that was brought to my attention is the subject of masking on public transportation and on school buses, and that there's a concern among some members of the community that the federal mask mandate involving public transportation is not being honored on our local district transportation school buses. The Iowa Department of Public Health, in their guidance to schools, has indicated that regardless of House File 847, the ban on mask mandates, that this federal mandate does in fact still apply. It still applies to all districts. Their information, they said, was provided in an online seminar back in May of this year to school districts, but they're very clear. And so when Solon indicates they're following the guidance of the Iowa Department of Public Health, one of the things is, very clearly stated that, passengers and drivers must wear a mask on school buses, including buses operated by public and private school systems, subject to any exclusions that are listed in the CDC order. It says that the Department of Education is providing guidance to schools to that effect. And so, regardless of whether or not the district as district-wide adopts that, you need to be cognizant of the fact that there is still a federal mandate, and there is concern among community members that on school buses is not being honored. And so I would ask that you pay particular attention to that, maybe do some more education with the drivers, the people responsible for the kids, to make sure that we are actually doing what we said we were going to do, which is to follow the Iowa Department of Public Health guidance, and also all laws. The second thing I would ask is that we as the district keeper work. And so what that means is, when we say we're going to follow the guidance of the Department of Public Health or the CDC or whatever agency it is, that we're actually doing so. And for example, in the August letter that was sent out by the administration of parents, they said, although House File 847 prohibits the mask mandate in schools, we still encourage students and people to wear masks. But I would ask, are we really doing that? Are we really encouraging them? Are we doing any health instruction, any masks available to students? Are there signs, reminders? And perhaps most importantly, are we modeling good behavior? Are the teachers, the administrators, the staff in the schools modeling that behavior in order to actually follow through with the word that was given, which is that as a district, we would encourage, if not mandate, the use of facial protection. The other issue that came to my attention this week was that I received a notification on Saturday that there was a positive in my daughter's class. And as part of the notification that goes out from the district, it's a form letter. An example was given at the beginning of the school year, and it's one that goes out. It says, among other things, in the form letter, that the Johnson County Public Health is providing contact tracing to all positive cases.
30 seconds.
and that we may be contacted. Well, my contact with the public health department, they've indicated that the Solon School District has declined to provide them with any information they need to conduct contact tracing. They specifically stated the administration for Solon has determined that they will not be sending the list of those contacts of positive persons in school to Johnson County Public Health this year. And so it contradicts, I think, the letter that is being sent out to us. So we need to make good on the promises that we've made. We need to be honest in the things that we're doing and the things that we're not doing, because it does impact, among other things, our ability to get tests for our kids at the hospital, because they want to know, have you been deemed a close contact? Well, public health hasn't contacted us in contact tracing. How would we know? And you can't answer that question. So my daughter was denied a test this week, for example.
See you next time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to come and present. We always appreciate when people take the time to come and share their concerns with the board.
Celebrations. Celebrations.
Yeah. Next up on our agenda is celebration achievements.
Yeah, just wanted to note that our cross-country team traveled to Ballard earlier in the week, and it was quite a meet with several top 10 ranked teams. Our girls dominated the meet, which now have propelled them to #1 ranking in the state. And our boys finished third in that meet, which now has placed him in the top 5, I believe, in the rankings. And so from track season carrying over to our cross country season, they're doing wonderfully representing Solon. Another celebration, we added a new club at the high school. We have 21 students signed up. It's a textiles club where they're going to be, I think, learning to knit and quilt and everything with textiles, I suppose, even outside of fabric. I think there were a few students that had interest in that. Jake Munson said, I'll sponsor it, be part of it, and we've got 21 signed up for it. So something new at Solon High School.
Very nice. Anything else on the celebration achievements for tonight? First up on focus on learning is 6 to 12 blended learning.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring you an update on our strategic plan. Josh is going to share some things that he and the principals have got in place. And then Zach's going to share our other goal, which deals with post-secondary, our new position at the high school. So Josh?
I'll just start first, the last couple of Thursdays, just professional development wise, just to continue to expand on our social emotional learning goal across the district. The last 2 Thursdays, our staff, PK through 12, engagements in virtual learning with Jessica Minahan, who's one of the authors of the Behavior Code. And so just on the front page of that handout, just kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of some of the big ideas that we discussed with the staff. Really trying to build on that theory piece and research that we've really dug into the last couple of years and get further into some strategies, specific strategies that we think can teach students the behavior, but also anxiety. Today, the focus really was on engagement, student engagement, and reducing opposition behaviors. Some students exhibit behaviors differently based on their anxiety levels. And just again, just an overview of some of the big ideas related to that. Then the blended learning, the blended learning project was launched last week for our 6-12 teachers. We have approximately 12 teachers involved with that. All of our math teachers, middle school, high school, as well as some social studies teachers, and we have one science teacher involved in this. But really to show that we're being really intentional about this work and going slow and go fast. I just want to talk a little bit about the framework and the work that we are doing, thinking about the onboarding that happened a couple of weeks ago. And then this week we'll be digging into, or next week I should say, digging into learning-based goals and instructional planning for that project. And into implementation and calibration with the be some classroom observations as well as some coaching conversations with our own instructional coaches as well as our digital learning team members from Brentwood AA will be here to support us. And then spending some time as we go through this process as well toward the end, doing some reflection, assessment, and some goal setting. There'll be 3 cycles that we'll go through. So right now, we're in the first cycle of this learning, and come November, December, January will be in the second cycle, and then we'll end the year in the third cycle, which is very similar process or look when you look at in the framework bullet points 2 through 6. Just posted or gave you an example of next Tuesday, what that looks like for our teachers. Again, we're really going to be focused on job embedded learning. And it's not going to be an event where we send our teachers out to Brentwood or to a conference and make it a one-time event, but really ongoing professional development, job embedded with support, resources, those kinds of things. Then just kind of gave a picture of a book that we're looking at, Balance with Blended, to support those teachers involved in that and being able to use that literature that's not just theory-based, but whether some practical strategies to be using in the classroom. As we think about blended learning, it's a fancy word for differentiation of instruction, really. The differences we're incorporating technology as well as best practices in the classroom, supporting our students. Then below at the bottom there, this is something that as a district we're adopting in terms of our professional learning. And it comes from some research regarding closing that knowing doing gap. We know a lot of things, and we actually just had a conversation the other week about we really know a lot. It's just sometimes in the heat of the battle, so to speak, during learning time during school days. We don't always get to that point of really implementing all these best practices that we want to see. So, and one of the big pieces here, that top bullet point or arrow is ongoing and job embedded with a narrow focus. That's when we look at this initiative, blended learning, narrow focus, job embedded opportunities with coaching and support. And then you can look at the others. But the goal would be over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, we'd see an increase in change of practices or enhancing some of our practices for working with our kids. So again, this is just the beginning phase. Obviously, the last couple of years, our math team has been involved with some learning with this. But this year, we're really trying to gear up for doing some implementation or getting some implementation. So, any questions about that? Just kind of an update of where we are with.
You said 50 hours of professional development. Is that kind of clustered throughout the year, or is that focused
Yeah.
at the beginning?
So the way we're looking at the 50 hours, that bullet point there should take at least 50 hours of professional development while sustaining that narrow focus. So that might be, we might go to a workshop. We might do a book study. But a lot of it that we want to focus on is job embedded. Those opportunities to really be in our classrooms, practicing our craft while getting support, while obtaining some of those resources that we need to make this work. So really that 50 hours is a combination of a lot of different things as we really are intentional about how we implement these practices associated with learning.
The 50 could be stretched over a 2-year period. Yeah, could be stretched over 50 years.
Oh, right.
And like Josh was saying, it's as we read theory, as we provide demonstrations, as teachers practice, as then we go back and collaborate, as we look at the data and go back to some more theory. So it's just a continuous job embedded. And Josh has pulled in the digital learning team from the Brentwood AA to be part of this. And so I just thought it'd be great for you to hear the update on that area of our strategic plan and the plan that Josh, Zach, and Mike have put together 6/12 to get this really embedded and deep into our instructional practices.
Questions from the rest of the board?
It's been nice, Josh, to watch this kind of develop over the time of years, and now to see that come to fruition. I'm excited to see where that goes.
The other area of our strategic plan, another area is post-secondary. And we added a new position at the high school in partnership with Kirkwood. And I'd like, Zach's been a big part of putting that together at the high school. So Zach, you want to share with the board? We've got someone on hired.
Yeah, so Kathleen McKean, I sent you guys this information just so you get a little background of who she is. This position has been in the works for, I don't know, probably just under a year. You know, we had talked about something internally that we could do, and then we found out about this grant that the federal government was gonna support Iowa through, and so partnering with Kirkwood, they also, along with other community colleges in the state, created these positions called college career transition counselors. Now, the reason why we're finding a coordinator is as we advertise for these positions, there was a really low number of good certified counselors. And the state really wanted that to happen, to have all these positions be certified counselors. But as they went through the process, they really led this process. We were a part of it. They only found one that was a quality candidate, and that person was hired at Denmark. And so through this consortium, we have 4. We just added a 5th, actually just started this last week. So there's 5 of them within our region that are partnered with Kirkwood. Kathleen is in our building 4.5 days a week. She's there from 8 to 4 every day, and then from about noon to 4 on Thursdays. And I gave you guys a document. I'm not going to read through that verbatim, but this is something that Mike and I, Mike Thompson and I kind of laid out prior to Kathleen coming on board. So we had just a good plan up front of what this could look like. And if you look at, I would say the duties, responsibilities, the last bullet on that first page, this is really where you can see the blue, her name, Kathleen, where she's going to spend a lot of time helping support students. And for her, it's going to be a pretty large learning curve, as it has been for all of them, just because it is a new position. Each role is a little bit different based on the demographic that they serve. So the CCTCs that are in college community is going to look very different than what she's doing here. The purpose behind this really is to allow all students, underrepresented, underserved kids, the same exact opportunities that any other student would have post-secondary. And so she'll probably end up with 20 to 25 students she's very focused on, but she's also going to take off, or Mike's played a lot of that concurrent enrollment, kind of direct communication with Kirkwood as well. So we're excited about this partnership. It's going to be good. It's going to take some time to really identify what her strengths are and how it's going to play into supporting our kids as best as possible. So we meet weekly, Mike, her and I. She's a big part of our ICAP team. So yeah, questions.
Questions from the board?
I'll add one of the advantages of this position is, one, it really fills a big part of our ICAP team and that direct connection with Kirkwood and concurrent enrollment, and whether it's 4-year track or whether it's career tech track, whatever. And it takes, like Zach had mentioned, it takes a big load off of Mike Thompson's plate so that now he can spend more time in the other area of our strategic plan, and that's the mental health area. So it helps in that also.
I'm glad you made mention of that, Davis, because other than Tim and I, maybe Chris, have been around for a long time, everybody else in the room won't know that Mike Thompson's time has been an issue in this district for a long time, trying to free up some time for him to focus on what we think he does best. So, and I appreciate Davis, all your efforts in getting this established, because we kind of got some resistance early on and kind of pushed through a little bit to do it. So good for you, Zach. Thanks for everything. Getting this thing going. This is going to be tremendously advantageous for the district as a whole. And hopefully Michael will realize that, he's got some free time to do what he wanted to do. Yeah. So.
No, I think it's great. I imagine the learning curve is steep, but it's good. Yeah, she's in the building quite a bit, so it's just some progress on how this goes.
So one of the questions I had is, I know we've talked about this, and I know as you guys briefed us on the process earlier on, it's going to kind of be all encompassing. So is there an area that she's focusing on first as we start off? 'Cause I know we talked about, there's this whole 4-year, two-year VOTAC versus going into apprenticeships, and it's a very big field. Is there an area as we kind of work with Kirkwood where they say, this is kind of the piece we're starting with first because this is the easiest to tackle or expand, or how's that work?
Yeah, so Kirkwood's vision is really about identifying a subset of students that she's going to meet with very regularly, so probably weekly. First-gen college students that maybe have some other hurdles that others wouldn't have. So we've identified those students already, so she's got a list and she'll start checking in with them. And then exposure is going to be the big thing initially. You look at those different domains of the ICAP and by grade level, what we're doing. So she'll take a pretty big role in that, but it doesn't have a specific, she won't have like a specific, we're really going to focus on two-year path right now. No, I feel like that's what Kirk was pushing.
So more focused on the kids and what they need rather than the directions they're heading.
Correct. Exposure, making sure they know the directions,
Yeah.
and how to get there.
And so when,
It's not a feeder program for.
no, I knew that, but I know. Yeah, I know, because we've talked about all the different needs, because, there's the whole question with student aid, and there's, as we've heard from families, it's like, there's all these different questions as they go through the process, and everyone's questions are different. Did you, so is it mainly, is her primary focus kind of, is it early in high school, or is it kind of middle, or is it kind of late, or is it just kind of a mixture depending upon?
So her focus initially will be juniors and seniors. Yeah.
Will she take over the workplace learning stuff from Mike, and is Mike still keeping that? She will. Okay. Because I saw that there's a note today that they got a new director today, so that was on my mind, so. Great program, I think. Mike has done a great job the last few years getting kids in there. So.
Zach, when you think that she's ready to like for this, like, small presentation that we'd like to hear from her, I think neither.
Yeah. Getting her land legs right now, isn't she? Yeah.
She kind of keep late on the scene, right? Because it just took a while.
Well, they had to redo it completely, so it was July when they reposted it without that certification that was required. Essentially, DOE said, okay, I see that you're really having a hard time getting involved with all the applicants, so let's do that. So they allowed us, and then brought in 40 applicants. They narrowed down to 10 or 12. Kirkwood again handled the majority of the interviews that passed those on to us. They were all recorded, so we had to look through them, see what fit for our student body, and then they narrowed down to 5, and we kind of had to select. And so that she really did her first, wasn't even her first official day. She didn't start at Kirkwood, but she came to our first staff meeting, mid-August when we had that. So they get first day started. So it's not even
Again, thanks for all the hard work on this. I know it's going to be a valuable addition. Rick indicated there's a need at the high school to free up some of that time and meet the needs of the students there. So I think it's a good addition. Is this anything else from the rest of the board? Is this your admin report?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I just want to give you a quick update. Well, we've experienced another great start to the school year, and that's coming off of a record student achievement year from last year. Josh and I have been looking through the data, and we're not finding anyone that matched our achievement across Iowa, so we're pleased with that. As you heard from Josh and Zach, we hit the ground running. Already been heavily engaged in job embedded professional development, targeting our strategic plan, goals in the area of academic achievement, post-secondary, and mental health. Our focus of this year still remains on keeping all students and staff safely on site. We're continuing to utilize strategies from last year, our disinfectant routines that put into place last year, not only combating COVID, but all childhood illnesses, doors being propped open, little things like that. We've provided families guidance from our Department of Public Health regarding COVID and other childhood illnesses. Our nurses have done a good job. They continue to be on the phone with parents and available to parents with questions, whether it's about symptoms or whether it's about a notification letter of a possible exposure or such. Parents have done a great job being very mindful of those symptoms that their kids have displayed, and keeping their children home. We talked about in the past, sometimes kids would come to school with green snotty noses or lightly fevered. Parents might give them some aspirin before, just kind of reduce that. But parents are really, changing habits as far as being more cautious about sending their child home and even calling our nurses. So that's been very helpful in this. We continue to monitor and assess the data. We'll make adjustments as the data determines, same approach as we had last year.
We've still not been successful at getting Johnson County to share the zip code data for.
Correct. Johnson County is very still and cooperative, unlike other public health. I've got that in my report, talking to other superintendents, including Lynn County. They get that zip code data. We do not. It would be another good data point to put into our multiple data points, but we haven't got that yet.
Nurses asked for it last summer, then we tried to help. We got our state representatives.
Our representatives asked for it too.
Yep.
Yeah. So we continue to monitor. We're looking at positives. We're reporting out to the public kind of a 7-day period from Monday to Sunday, what it looked like that week. That number is located on our website under health information and services. I know when we first started collecting August 30th through September 5th, we had 9. September 6th to the 12th, we had 5. And about half of those cases, according to our nurses, were within families. When we have a positive test in school, we do send out possible exposure notification letters. We send those through emails to all families. Families may receive duplicate copies of that letter for the same incident if their child's involved in additional extracurriculars or such. We're just trying to cover everything, make sure no one's leaved out. So it does sometimes afford a family getting multiple notifications. Absenteeism for the year, the high school's at 0.9%, less than 1%. Middle school's at 0.8%. Absenteeism at the intermediates at 2.8, and Lakeview's at 3.1, which are outstanding numbers. As a district, we're at 2.5. So extremely low absenteeism. We also look at other illnesses. We're looking at everything. And I know our nurses reported, those numbers that ticked up to 3% at Lakeview. Our nurses reported multiple cases of RSV and strep. So we have some other factors contributing to some absenteeism. We continue to look at trends. When we do have a positive case, are they saturated or more so in one building or a grade level or classroom or such? We're looking at that data right now. Like I said, it's more relationship. It's more within families that we're seeing. Again, strategy, as you're aware of from last school year, we have multiple strategies, all levels from minimal to extreme. We took some extreme measures last year, certain times of the year as the data determined, and we'll continue to review our data and those multiple data points. I did recently communicate, as I do routinely, with WALMAC superintendents. We have 12 districts within our conference. It's a good conversation because we have similar communities, yet we have differences also. So it's a conversation where we understand those similarities and differences. We have our conversations. It gives each of us a different perspective from other communities, different ideas. As of today, all 12 WALMAC districts are keeping mask optional as they started the school year that way. One district cited that the reason they're maintaining the optional mask is they don't know where this lawsuit's going, and it could change it could change, a week from now. And so until it plays out, they're going to stay optional also. Other than that, I think you mentioned our frustration, the fact that the zip code data is not available, which again would be another data point. But our principals continue to work with their building leadership teams. And again, we'll make adjustments as we see fit.
Yeah,
The data determines.
I know that was successful last year. I know we lost Zach. I know at one point last year, particularly at the high school, I know that the building leadership team had done a lot of work to try and identify possible changes there. I know we came close to making a change as numbers ticked up there. To move online for the high school last year. We didn't quite get there, but we sent out the warning that it might happen.
Yep.
So, questions from the rest of the board?
So we are watching all of the numbers, lots of different things that are coming in. And if we see a reason, we will implement more of the things that we used last year if it's necessary. But it kind of is going to slide with what we feel is necessary.
And we talked about this last year. It's just, we can't just it's difficult just to put a number on each one of those data points too, because they also work together. I mean, like 9's not a good way to start the year with 9 positive cases. But yet when we looked at it, the majority of those 9 were within families, a couple families. And so, we have to look at all those data points. They all contribute. We even at one time last year talked with Johnson County Public Health as far as what are you using for data points? At one time, what will the data need to look like when you retract your recommendation for this? And their comment was, we don't have set numbers on these because it's multiple factors all. So, and that's why, conversations are most important and getting different perspectives. I know our building principals, like Tim, you had referenced, they're meeting with their teacher leadership team. Last year they did a lot of meetings as far as looking at the district data points, looking at their building data points, and contributing to those recommendations. And so we'll continue. It was successful last year. We'll continue this year, and hopefully we won't have to go to extreme measures. But we know what works, because it worked last year for us, and we're prepared to implement if necessary. So.
Adam?
Well, I'm good. I see that. Obviously talking with other high schools or other communities that we work, not just looking at one thing. So I know you're reaching out, and it's not an easy decision, but there's a lot that goes into it. So.
You want to ping Dan to see? I know it's always hard when you're the online person. I've been that person many times before.
Anything, Dan?
And we appreciate you keeping us informed. I think we'll continue to, just as we did last year during the admin report, we'll continue to get updates on how things are going. We don't want to have, as we talked about last year, the reason we went this route is we didn't want to have to call special board meetings every time a decision had been made. It's flexible, we make adjustments. If you want, last year we talked about if you wanted to move the high school online, we didn't want to have to call an emergency board meeting and make a change. So we continue to move through this process, and it's effective. We should keep us informed as things are happening, and it's good to have the broader discussion every month when we get together as a group at the board table. So, anything else from anybody on this topic? Hearing nothing. Board committee updates. Rick, do you have anything on the? I wasn't sure if there was anything new on the baseball complex. I think that was.
I think we have it all leveled off, seeded grass, so that it won't interfere with our cross-country meet. Saturday junior high, Monday JV varsity home meet. If you want to see the top team run in the state of Iowa, come out Monday. They are impressive. We have 10 runners, 10 to 12 runners that can all Yeah, interchange.
I think
And it does look really good out there. I'm out there often and it's nice and smooth and it looks like it's ready for them. So I don't have doing that out there. So
Next Monday, at what time? 4.
I think, on the facility side, we'll have, obviously, we've got the updates from the city on changes to their upcoming building projects inside the city. So that'll be a topic that has to get taken up during the next calendar year, trying to readjust our timelines for building projects. And so that'll be something that comes up next year. It'll come up after the first year as well, right?
700, 800, and 900, and then there's a handful of
Singles.
singles, and I've got them ready for Davis and I to sit down and review them. Hopefully, we can start next month, and then November, yeah.
Sounds good. And I
They're ready to kind of start reviewing.
Yeah, and I think, the other thing to note from a negotiation standpoint is our negotiations with the teachers union was a relatively short process this year. We had the special board meeting. When that was.
It was in August.
End of August.
Yeah, yeah.
Had the special board meeting in August to approve the contract extension with the teachers union. So we extended 1 year, keeping everything else the same. So I think it was a win-win for everybody to keep that moving along. So continue to express my appreciation for Terry Putsy and the union team for their work with us to move that forward. So, okay, consent agenda. Anything in there that anybody wants to pull out? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Alaska, second by Jedlick, that approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously unless I don't see a hand from Dan objecting. So, so motion carries unanimously on that one.
Aye.
Aye, there he is.
Little delay.
I gotta remember he's online. I've been there, before. So action items, we've got SIAC membership. It's that time of year again. So we've got this year's update to the SIAC list. This is an annual thing that we do in September. There's different, the goal in this is to try and spread it out amongst parents, teachers, students, community members. Then there's some balances that are required by law. And so Davis, I don't know if you want to give us an update on kind of who's.
Yeah, you can
coming
see.
on, who's
We see we have a nice collection of those in our community. You can see we meet 3 times. The dates are listed there. We have 2 students there at the bottom that are kind of student representatives, but typically in January, that meeting is dedicated to a 612 student focus, where we bring in just a variety representation, a big representation of our 612 student body. And we've got 4 or 5 questions that we ask them. We put a group of students with 2 or 3 SIAC members to engage in that conversation. We bring that data back, collect it, and I typically share it with you in February. A big part of our school improvement is just getting student feedback on. Jamie's participated in that before. It's really neat to hear the students. Sometimes it can be scary because they'll speak the truth, and you've got to accept that. And so, but they've been it's been a good team. Josh facilitated the August meeting where we had an outside professional educator come in and talk about our work with Portrait of a Graduate. And so initial conversations with this group from our community as far as defining that portrait of what we want every graduate to be, not just the knowledge, but more resilient and compassionate. And whatever, we're in the middle of this work now, or just the beginning of the work. And so we hope to have that picture through this, but the SIAC's been a part of that too.
Any questions on the list? It's a regularly, it's an annual part of the process, and you guys have done all the legal verifications. I did not have a chance to double check the gender balance. I know that was a change, what, 6-7 years ago. And we've got all the, as I looked through it, I saw that we've got it looks like we've got all the categories checked. So
We do.
It's kind of like a 3-dimensional puzzle. As you get volunteers, you gotta find someone to fill another slot that kind of balances everything out. So questions from the board or a motion?
Make a motion to approve the SIAC membership.
Motion by Jellicoe to approve the side membership as presented.
Second.
Second by Wolf. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Aye.
I gotta wait longer.
Dan's got it.
So Dan, confirming you were an aye for approving and not an aye for opposing.
Approval.
Okay. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is, so that was the only action item. September is normally a relatively light month. We have information items, combo for November. ISB registration is coming up, so we need to get an idea of who's planning to attend. And then we also have to talk about the November board meeting. It is on the day of IASB. So theory, we should be down, members should be down in Des Moines learning about being a board member and doing our professional development. And so I think Chris had offered a couple suggestions, one of which is switching the night. We've got to be careful because we've also got to wait for the county to do the canvassing, so we can't do the meeting. Yeah, we can do the meeting at different times, but then we may have to have a special meeting to do the exception of the election and everything. So, so there's a couple options there. The other option we had was to do a later in the evening, maybe do a 7 o'clock, 7:30 meeting that night after people come back from ISB. So we've got we don't have to make a decision tonight. Chris does want to know from Adam and Jamie about attendance at ISB, and then
They did get back to me. They're both registered.
okay.
The most important, you can register up until almost the day,
Yeah.
but the most important thing was for me to secure the hotel room. So I've secured 6, and I've just used the people in the central office's names to hold the rooms. And they also said, I believe on that website, you do not have to be sworn in as a member to attend.
Yep.
So ideally, it'd be at that night, and just, even if we have 5 o'clock, 5:30 meeting, and then you guys are using another evening, but you guys are all gonna have to make that together. Jamie has said she would be the delegate.
Yep.
So we've got that taken care of as well.
Thanks, Jimmy, for volunteering to be the delegate. It's a fun day on the first day of the convention. I appreciate you taking that over. I did that for a number of years in a row, and I was happy that you took that over. It's a good experience.
It'll be interesting and a good one. I
It's
know I was the
also-
backup one last year, but online things just don't
Yeah.
work for me. So this one in person will be very.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
It's a good experience. It's particularly useful to see the different perspectives as you look around the state and you look at, as you sit with different districts and you look at, what I found interesting is that before they went to electronic thing, they used to have cards that you held up to vote, and the cards were color coded and based on the number of votes you got. And so, all the bigger districts were, they had more votes, but they were color coded a particular way. And it was always interesting when you'd see this disparity where they'd go around counting them, but all the bigger districts would raise their cards, and then all the smaller districts would raise their cards in the opposite direction. So there was a lot, you think about it as kind of being a regional difference, but a lot of the differences at ISB tend to be large schools and their needs versus what the small schools need, and then kind of the mid-sized schools kind of would split between them. And so you wound up with some close votes, but it was it was always interesting to kind of see. It's one of the things I miss with the electronic is you don't get a kind of a distribution of how districts are voting. You just kind of get a tally at the end. And so I think there's some value to that. It's a lot faster. There's no more 7-8 hour delegate assemblies like we had when they had to hand count everything. But it does, from a perception standpoint, we don't get as much out of it in terms of being able to understand how the dynamics play in the state, in the schools. ISB understands that because they get the raw data, but for those that they don't. So I don't know. Any thoughts on I think it'll be an action item in October to do something with it, either change the nights, split things up, change the time. It's one of our regular scheduled meetings, so we have to take action. It's not a unilateral decision on it. So we've got to either leave it as it is, or we take action as a board to shift it off of the 5:30.
So we normally come back anyway.
Yeah, and that's the board meeting that we would potentially vote for president, swear everybody in. So,
Yeah.
and typically that's usually about what the meeting is all about.
Well, there's
It's something, I mean, you can do, what, 6 or 6:30 probably, some of that stuff, so to wrap it up by
normally we depart,
about 3.
no, normally about 4:30. It depends on the closing speaker.
Yeah.
Sometimes the closing speaker is good, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes there's things we're trying to get back for. Get back for a board meeting or a work session. A number of years ago, I remember a work session that happened to be scheduled. We wound up all rushing back for that a few years ago. Sometimes the ISB meeting isn't when we think it is when we set our schedule. It's not what we're always thinking about. So this is just an informational item. So nothing that we need to take up action on tonight. Just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. There is a conflict, and we'll have to resolve that one way or the other at our October board meeting. So because I do think it's valuable to get as many board members there as possible for the education aspects of. Particularly new board members, because there's all the financial stuff and new board orientation. Because I think Jamie, you did that your first year, you got a lot of the new board orientation stuff on there, and that was.
And I could ask if you want me to, tomorrow I have to deliver the petitions.
Yep.
I could ask, do they potentially feel like within that week? I mean, we could always do the 11th, if they feel like the canvassing will be done with it.
No, because we had that
think that's way
conversation.
too
We had that
early?
conversation. It's because we've got those half dozen or dozen houses in
Okay,
Clinton
yeah,
County.
that's
that-
right, yeah,
They require the two things. So when they changed the law,
yeah.
we now have, and they
You're right.
combined it, we now have to, they have to
Wait
wait
for
for
them
Lynn
to-
County to certify their portion, and then they have to get combined in with the
Yeah.
Johnson County numbers. And so,
So that's not an option.
no, because I think it's it'll be the day before is when
Okay,
that Wednesday, because it's like 2 Wednesdays in a row, I think,
Okay.
if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
from 2 years ago. So, Chris, what do we have for board learning tonight? Do we have anything on the agenda? Or is
we
this
do
just-
not, but I did want to say that I should have put that as a board achievement too. I got confirmation that all 5 have, and Davis, so 6 have met their points. And once again, we will receive a plaque down there. So Rick, depending on what you would like to do, or whatever board members are, it'd be great if you do a picture here when they come back, or if you attend down there. Because we will be giving the award again this year.
And just remind, last year, only 3 school districts out of 340 boards received that honor. So it's a big deal.
And this year, I promised to try to change it up a little bit. I've got some ideas on creating some new things for you guys to do, so it's not so repetitious for the ones that we made.
Yeah, I think we shared that the idea is there's some more podcasts that they have available, maybe even
Yeah.
doing some of the same, or repeating some of the board table stuff. We would all watch the podcast and then come and have a discussion as part of our thing. So, I think it's as I've advocated for a long time, I think it's important for the board to continue to learn together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's it's a good.
So I
opportunity.
didn't schedule anything for tonight because I know because of the reason we changed
Yeah.
the time frame, we want to kind of get going. So, yep.
Okay, talking points. Jamie?
Well, I think there's a lot of good stuff tonight, and I know that we're all talking COVID to death. But I do appreciate that the administration there's a lot of communication with us as the school board, and that just to make sure that you're finding out what we want and making sure that you are kind of carrying out what we as a board are thinking and feeling, and we as a board, I myself was voted here to represent the community, and I feel like I'm representing the majority of the community. If that changes, I'm always open to hearing new things, and I'm always trying to talk to people, but I feel like what we're doing here in our district is carrying out what the community as a whole, everybody's not always gonna be happy. But I think that we are keeping the kids in school, and we're keeping the learning as normal as possible for them, but also the fact that we are prepared to adjust if need be. I appreciate all of the work that's been put in on that, and I do appreciate that your door's always open, so you're always listening to the board and kind of carrying out what we're thinking. So just want to make clear that the board is in support of the school district. I myself, as a board member, am in support of what we're doing as a district as far as that goes, and I know that we're ready to do more if we need to, and not just sitting back and letting things ride, so.
Yeah, two things. First, I want to tell you to say how much I appreciate the concerns of my mom, wonderful floral arrangement that was sent, and everybody that stopped, and all the warm greetings. And yeah, I appreciate that very much. Sometimes how much that means in a situation like that. So thank you everybody for that. In terms of talking points, start to finish tonight, right? The ability for members of our community to feel comfortable to come and express their concerns. That's terrific. Obviously, Josh's information, Zach's information, and what I'm going to touch on is that Jake Munson never seems to amaze me, but I had no idea he knew how to crochet. So 21 people in the textile club is awesome, right?
I think he plans to outsource a lot of, yeah, yes.
I wrote down a number of things, but again, good week for, we kind of goes through there, but talking points from the community, Zach, again, just kind of that update with Kathleen, where we stand on that. I think it's going to be a success. Again, just mental health part two, allowing Mike to have a little more time, but also I kind of like here just to reach some of those kids that we probably normally wouldn't get to have that connection with. So to have that focus, I think is going to be a neat position, and I'm anxious to watch that position grow. Again, I appreciate all your work and everything that's going on. It's not easy, right? Last year we dealt with the same stuff. It didn't matter. We had people that wanted to shut the school down, to not even have learning in person. So that I looked at the letters. We've got a letter in the mail as well. So again, we're being vigilant. We care about these kids. You do as well. So we'll stay on top of it.
Not that I want to do it, but I'm going to skip over Dan because he's online and
He's offline.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. He said he had a week 5:30, so that would be, yeah.
Yes, so I will make note that he left us.
And so, again, there was a light one. I do appreciate everyone's effort. I think we have good discussions at the board table. I appreciate everything the board does. Extending out to the school, the building administrators and their leadership teams. I think just want to let them know how much we appreciate the effort they put in and how much we rely on them to provide guidance on both the educational and other mitigation efforts as we go through it. So I think they did not sign up for this when they signed up to be building leaders. They weren't planning on a pandemic, and so they got thrown in last year to it, and I think they were hoping that maybe it was behind them as we head into another year, but I appreciate everything that they do to kind of look at their buildings critically and make recommendations that we can implement and be prepared to implement as they come up. So that's kind of what I've got on this end. So with that, our next board meeting is Thursday, October 21st, here at the central office at 5:30 p.m. There's no work session before that, if I remember correctly. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Wolf, second by Haluska. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
5:35. Thank you.